Hi, my name's Phil Gardner and welcome to Fun with Boxes. Well, there's one thing I do love and that's a squirrel. Here's a squirrel now. There. That's how much I love squirrels. I have a squirrel here. And just to prove a point, why, here's another squirrel. Hey, hey. Oh, how fantastic. Here we go. Put this little squirrel here and we got this little squirrel there. Yes, indeed. Well, why am I telling you I love squirrels? Well, because I think everybody should know that I love squirrels. But there is another reason why I'm telling you, and that is because of this rather wonderful game called Nutty Business. Nutty Business! Ha! It's a game about squirrels. Oh my goodness, as soon as we seen this game, we had to pick it up. Had to. Wow, look at that box cover there. Pretty nifty. The dark looking squirrel there, must admit. Well, Nutty Business is a game by Alain Rivollet and is from publishers Studio H, Hachette Games. And it looks very splendid indeed. It even comes in a box with a little slide-in tray there. Oh, that's very nice. And of course, it's chock full of nuts. But what is it all about, you may well ask, because you may not be that fussed on squirrels, or you just don't mind squirrels, but you are not as excited as me about squirrels. Indeed, I do love a good squirrel. I love you too. There, I love both these squirrels, just to clarify that. We'll have no in-squirrel fighting here, please. Thank you. Well, what is Nutty Business, the board game, about? Well, it's New York in 1925 and the prohibition of nuts is in full swings. Gangs of unscrupulous squirrels are smuggling this contraband and you have to avoid custom officers, store your spoils in the bank and get ready for police raids so you can be the richest squirrel in the business. Well, fantastic. Stack your cards, manage your hand and gather the most nuts. Who doesn't love gathering nuts? There, I said it. Well, let's take a Fun with Boxes look at what you get in a game of Nutty Business. Okay, let's take a look at how we set up a game of Nutty Business. Well, here we go. Setup is extremely easy. Each player takes 8 matching coloured cards. So if we were setting up a 2-player game, one player would have those 8 red cards and the other player these 8 yellow cards. You put the rest of the cards to one side and you would place all the nut tokens in the centre of the table for easy reach of players, and then each player will choose one card from their hand and they would place that face down in front of them. So the yellow player would choose that card and the red player would choose that card. And that is setup complete. It really is as simple as that. And the first player will be whoever ate nuts most recently, even if in a spread, milk or dessert. Well, there you go. Quite specific. I do enjoy a first player rule like that. To start a game of Nutty Business, each player turns over and reveals the card that they have played face down. And then players take turns clockwise, starting with the first player. And on your turn, you must perform these 2 steps. You must add a new card, and then you must apply the effect of your face-up cards. So, add in a card. First, you choose a card from your hand. So if I choose this card, for example, you can see it. And then, if you have a single stack in front of you, comprising of 1 or more cards, you may either play the new card face up on top of the stack, or you may place it face up next to the stack, forming a second stack. And if you have two stacks in front of you, then you must play the new card face up on top of either stack. You can never have more than 3 stacks in front of you. And then, very simply, you apply the effects of any face up cards you've got in front of you. And you must apply the effects of both your face up cards. That is, the top cards of your stacks, one at a time in any order. And what is important is the bank, customs officer and hideout card effects can be applied on any player's turn. We'll come to that a little later. So in my example here, we would apply the effects of these 2 face-up cards, which are contraband cards, and we would simply gain as many nuts from the reserve as shown on the card. So in this case we would gain 5 nuts for this card and 3 nuts for this card, so for a total of 8 nuts. But if I played this card on top of this card instead, then when I resolve the effects of it, I'm only resolving the effects of this face-up card. In this example I would only be gaining 3 nuts. So it does make sense, at least to me, to play this card as a separate stack. Then I can resolve the effects of both these cards. Then it would be the next player in clockwise order, and we would continue in this manner, adding a new card from our hands and then resolving the effects of any face-up cards until the end of the game is triggered. And the end of the game is triggered as soon as you have no cards to play at the beginning of your turn, and the game ends immediately, and you do not apply the effects of any face-up cards. So as soon as you have no cards to play at the beginning of your next turn, that's when the game immediately ends. And then players will count their nuts, and whoever has the most nuts, of course, wins the game. In the case of a tie, the winner is whoever has the highest sum of contraband cards in their hand. And if there's still a tie, the winner is whoever has the highest sum of contraband cards among their face-up cards. So exactly what are the 8 cards and what are their effects? Well, we've seen these 2 cards already, and there are 3 such cards in the game. These are the contraband cards, and as we saw, if this card is face up on your turn, you would gain as many nuts from the reserve as shown on the card. And if you reveal the contraband card, you must pay off any opponent's custom officers cards, which is here. So if the opponent had the customs officer card in play, then you must pay off the custom officer using only the nuts gained from your face-up contraband cards. So you would have to give up 2 nuts for this card, 1 nut for this card and 1 nut for this card, as is shown in the bottom right hand corner. And if that's not enough to pay off all the face-up custom officers, you choose how to divide up your nuts. So let's talk about the customs officer. If this card is face up on an opponent's turn, when a player plays a contraband card with 2 or 3 nuts, they must pay 1 nut to each player with a face up customs officer. And if a player plays a contraband card with 5 nuts, then they must pay 2 nuts to each player with a face up customs officer. Next up we have the thief, and if this card is face up on your turn, each player must give you 1 nut for each of their face up contraband cards. And you will see the contraband cards have this icon there of a little suitcase. Next we have the bank card, and if this card is face up on any player's turn, the bank card protects you from customs officers and thieves, so you pay nothing. You can see the little shield symbols there at the bottom of the card that remind you of this. Next up we have a police raid card, and if this card is face up on your turn, you take an opponent's stack and place it on top of their other stack, so they only have a single stack instead of 2. If the top card of the stack covered was a bank, you gain 2 nuts from the reserve, otherwise you gain 1 nut from the reserve, and you cannot choose an opponent who only has 1 stack in front of them. And the final card then is the hideout card. So once per game, when you play this card, you choose one of your stacks and you take all the cards in this stack back into your hand and then start a new stack with the hideout card. And this card can only be used once per game. And there you have it. that's all the 8 cards. It may seem quite simple and not much of a game, but I can guarantee you that very much is not the case. The rules are very straightforward. The cards, the graphic design on the cards are very, very nice indeed and clearly tell you what each card does. So once you start playing the game, you will have no trouble knowing exactly what the cards are, and you will not need to refer to this rule booklet. And the rule booklet does give you an example as well there, so you can see exactly how 4 turns of a game plays out there. Well, there you have it, Nutty Business. What a fantastic game. A game where you only have 8 cards. That's all you have, 8 cards. And you have them all at the start of the game. And you think, this can't possibly be much of a game, can it? Only 8 cards. Surely there's more to it than that. And of course there is more to it than that. Although that is all you get. But it's such a clever game mechanic, and it makes for really interesting 2-player games, I must admit. What card are you going to lead with? What your second card is going to be? Are you going to play it so it forms the second stack, because you can only have 2 stacks in front of you? Or are you going to put it on top and cover up and lose the ability of that other card? Are you gathering nuts? But as you gather nuts, you got to watch out, because your opponent could be stealing some nuts off you as well. Do you play the card that will block them from stealing whatever you're collecting at the moment? Oh, it's such a clever, clever, clever game, and one that I would highly recommend. This is a very fun 2-player game that really makes you think when you're playing it. It's quite a clever, strategic little game, and one that I would highly recommend, I must admit. That's Nutty Business from Hachette Games. Highly, highly recommended, and I must admit, it's a 2 fun with boxes thumbs up for this game. Definitely one worth picking up. Well, I do hope you enjoy taking a look at Nutty Business with me. Please click that old like button and hit that subscribe button too. That would be fantastic. And in the meantime, please do take care and bye for now.